All right, finally got this to work. Don't know what was going on. Sean, good to see you guys. Once again, live from accelerators.org. And it is Friday. I like to do these sort of towards the end of the week. I did not have a martini yet, so I guess that is not the reason why I couldn't get on live. There's something else going on with Facebook there, or my Wi-Fi or something. Hope everybody is enjoying this Friday. If you're on the East Coast, we're about to get whacked with some weather. Maybe it's a forecasting of our future winter here, but we're getting sort of like a nor'easter tropical storm that's coming through this weekend. Should be a nice at home, watch football and watch movies I need to catch up on. So hope everybody has a relaxing weekend. You entrepreneurs out there, take some time to think creatively and creatively and bring it into Monday with a fresh mindset. All right, guys, let's jump in here. So I'll start with the first question. First question comes from Marcus Palmari. Marcus says, mentally, what helped you to transition from solopreneur to business owner in the beginning? I know how to build a company. I need to hire people. I do 6 figures with clients now, and it's a mental thing to hire other technicians in my business and pay them for money I earn now so I can do more selling. How do I get over this mental challenge? Marcus, this is absolutely one of the hardest challenges that I would say most entrepreneurs and most people face, period. It's a very difficult trade-off in your mind. You're essentially feel like you're giving your money to somebody else. But I would sum this up in one word: leverage. Marcus, it's that easy. It's not a financial word. It is a word in life. So it can be used in life. It can be used in business. Leverage. So I'll be short and sweet here. The only way to build up a business, especially a service business like yours, where you need to hire people, is to do it through leverage, or to bring somebody in who can do your task or do part of your task and use their skill set, maybe at a lower cost structure because you're the expert. You've been in there at, a high level. Maybe you're making $150 an hour, $200 an hour. You bring somebody in who, is a $80,000 person, $70,000 person. So essentially they're making, 30 to 45 an hour. That's leverage, because you can charge $200 for your services or $250 for your services, whatever it is per hour. I'm just making this up. But if you're worth $150 to $200, and that's what you're charging your clients, well, if you bring somebody in who's you're only paying $45 an hour or $50 an hour, that's leverage. You're getting 3 to 1 on that person's time versus your own. Even though it's not your money, you're still getting a 3 to 1. That's the idea, man. That's how you do it. So how do you transition from solopreneur to business owner in the beginning? You have to flip that mindset. You have to flip it from it's about me, it's about how much money I can make and how much business I can do, to it's about the people and the process around me. Now, something also very important to note. If you don't have a good process, you can't have good people. I don't care what you say. Without a good process, nobody's going to work. So focus on the process first. And once you feel comfortable enough that that process can translate to other people in your organization, bring them in. A lot of businesses move too fast on bringing people in, thinking they can do it. And if the process is not set up the right way, they fail. Next question. Gerald Benjamin. Gerald says, how do I ensure quality control in my business? I own a roofing company. In roofing, I will have laborers I have to manage. I want to be able to manage multiple projects at once. I don't know how to set up processes that ensure that my laborers are doing the right job so I don't have to oversee every step. Any suggestions? Gerald, that's a great question. So you can't have an effective process without the right measures, appropriate targets, and we'll call it useful data of some sort to help you make decisions. And the only way to get those set up is to have controls around the activity. So in your business, let's think about a construction business and laborers. So you might say, okay, we have to do the framing today or the next 3 days or whatever, the framing of the house. So the measure would be, we have to, typically we will do framing of a new house, a small house, in 5 days. So that's the measure. 5 days to complete the framing of a house. Or excuse me, the framing is the measure, essentially the framing process and what goes into it. And then the wood and all the pieces of the process of the framing. That's the starting point. Then the target is 5 days to get the framing done. So the measurement of what you're looking out for is the framing of the house. Second, the target is 5 days. You should be able to get it done in 5 days, an appropriate target. And third is the data. So what's the data? Well, are the guys on the job? Well, if they work 6 hours a day hardcore or 7 hours a day hardcore, in your experience, if they're average or good, above average laborers, they will get the framing done in 5 days. So what you can do as a control is you could say at the end of you could set up measurements or targets along the road of those 5 days and say, hey, I should expect you to be at this point in the construction by day 1, this point by day 2, this point by day 3. And then you know as a control function that if they work 7 hours a day, they should be at that point. So that's all you have to do. You set the stage for them and you say, guys, this is what has to be done. I'm not going to be standing over you every minute, and set the controls. What a lot of people do, which is why this doesn't work, is, number one, they don't have a measurement. So they say, we got to build a house, we'll do framing, we'll do this. Oh, if there's interruption, go handle that. But there's no like set measurement on what needs to be done and when. There's so too ad hoc sometimes. Or another example in construction might be too ad hoc. So you got to set that, and then you got to set appropriate targets, meaning what really somebody can do that's realistic. Have a conversation with the guys. What's realistic? Guys, like you might have in your head, I can get this done in 5 days. You turn to your crew and you say, all right, guys, what can you do? How long? Here are the steps. Here are the measurements. How long does it take you to do that? And they might say 6 days. So you go, all right, guys, 6 days. And here are the controls, that the pieces I want to see along those 6 days. Now you have buy-in. Not only do you have the measurements, the targets, and the controls, but you have complete buy-in from your team. So you've hit all the angles. You don't have to micromanage them. If they fail, I say, guys, look, I'm not paying any overtime, and I'm going to need to get some other people in here, so I can't use you as much next week. I don't know what the punishment is, but so that's a good way to do it. All right. Next question is from Kimberly Benjamin. Kimberly says, how do I justify hiring a personnel admin assistant? I have a life insurance business and I help my husband's business, Top Gun Roofing. I know I can do more in both our businesses if I take some of the load off my business admin work as well as personal family life. We have 7 kids. Wow. I also have a fear that I'm not being a good mother. I'm afraid I might not be able to pay. And how much does it take away from my family income? Wow, Kimberly. 7 kids. That's amazing. Sorry, I have 3 kids, and I can't even imagine having any more. The fact that you have 7 is amazing. Congratulations. That's so much. So anyway, sorry. So I would say for you, Kimberly, to understand an admin assistant, I think you need to put value on what it is you do. So what's the value in your time to organize the kids? What's that value equation if that's removed for you to be able to work on the business, the insurance business, or your husband's business? What is that valued time? And actually quantify it. So, hey, every week I spend 3 hours planning the kids' activities and 2 hours driving them around, or whatever it may be, to all these things. If I can get an admin assistant who could actually drive them around and help me schedule their activities, that's 5 hours of my time. If that 5 hours translates into $150 an hour, then great. I'll make it $750 a week that I otherwise wouldn't be able to do, as long as you're translating that into revenue in your business. So time spent on things, revenue generating, or maybe some of that time is spent on helping your husband generate more revenue. Same equation, just depending on the scenario. That's a way to look at it. So if 5 hours actually, so let's say you need 10 hours of the admin time to save you 5 because you do it better. So that's the equation. So if 5 hours of your time actually, 10 hours of the admin to get to 5 hours of your time, and that means 750, well, how much is an admin 10 hours a week? I mean, sometimes it's hard to get a part-time admin at 10 hours, but I mean, typically admin people are, anywhere from $20 to $30 an hour, and that's a good one. So, $25 an hour, that's $250 for 10 hours a week. So you're making $750. You're making 3 times the amount for the admin. That's the way I look at it. But the only way to do it is to have a quantified scenario so that it really makes sense for you. And then when you start finding the things that the admin can really do, you could get a full-time person. And, if you get a 3-to-1 ratio on a full-time person, that means you're paying an admin $50,000 as an example. You're making $150. That's $100K more in revenue to your family. I mean, don't put your kids in private school because you have 7 of them, but that should be a lot of extra cash. Kimberly, just messing with you. So next question here is from Elisa Wilkins. So Elisa says, how do I partner with my spouse to support them in the company? My husband and I own a landscaping business. I left my full-time job in March to be full-time in the business. Prior to that, he was performing 100% of the tasks. It's very hard for him to give the control and trust to the employees and myself. And myself can perform these tasks without him overseeing everything. How can I get him to open up and let me do more? Oh boy, Alyssa. So working with your husband, of course, can always be very tricky, or working with your spouse in a sense can always be very tricky. Sounds like your husband has a control scenario or a micromanagement scenario with the work, which I understand. I used to have a lot of that. I have less of it now, but I used to have a lot of that because I did my work a certain way, certain perfectionist way, or I'll call it the highest value for the client, which I'm sure your husband's trying to do is, do the highest value, get the clients to pay him more, have repeat business, build a business off of that, which is, a good idea. But it's, again, I was saying this earlier in the conversation with some other questions, sometimes you have to get leverage. So your husband has to be okay with you or others doing his work, being able to do his work, but taking twice as much time. So he has to say, I'm willing to be okay that it'll take one person on my team 2 hours to cut those shrubs and I can do it in an hour. But again, my time is worth 3 times that person's time. So I'm still making leverage on doing that. And as long as they do a good job, the people aren't home anyway. So they don't care about how long it takes them to do the job. As long as they're doing the same job and they're getting all the jobs done that they did before in the same day, that's a critical component, then you can structure that as well. And then you can help fill in the gaps for your husband, maybe around things like scheduling or looking at how many jobs can be done in a day and making sure that guys and gals show up for the work. There's a lot of ways to do it, but it's about limiting his time so he can focus on bringing in more business and making sure the job is done right from a higher level. All right. Next and last question is from Ricardo Delgado. As a business owner in general, what relationships are key to having my network as I build? My background is in service. I own a barbershop and also a barber. I need to continue building relationships. I am an AO, obviously, and I'm in Toastmasters. I also attend some industry events. I worry I might not have some critical contacts in my network that I'm not thinking about. Any ideas? So, Ricardo, yeah, of course, networking as you build a business is important. So when I started my business 10 years ago now, I had a pretty strong sort of local network, but I was not communicating with people. Meaning, I knew a lot of people, but I wasn't staying in touch with them. I wasn't giving them any updates. I wasn't seeing how they were doing in their businesses. I was just, because I was at a full-time position at a former company, and it just didn't matter there. So I didn't do that. I didn't stay in touch with people. So actually what I did is before I left my full-time job, I had about a year as we had done a merger and there was sort of an integration period. And I had about a year to sort of help through that integration. And then I wasn't really needed anymore. They were going to replace my role, and that's why I left. So during that year, I did not work, but I knew what I wanted to do with my small business. So what I did is I focused on my network for a whole year. So I did networking constantly. So I would go out to lunches. I would go out to one-on-one coffees with people. I would just communicate. I wasn't using Zoom that much 10 years ago because it just wasn't as prevalent. But I was doing a lot more one-on-one networking. Literally just saying, hey, I'm thinking about setting up this business. What do you think? And people are happy to talk to you about it because they love seeing your concept and seeing if maybe down the road you can help them with contacts or their business. So they're willing to put in, half an hour or 45 minutes of a sit down. So I did a lot of coffee meetings for 30, 45 minutes. I did a lot of not big networking events. I did small things, a lot of meetings, a lot of smaller group things. You have to be pretty eccentric, meaning you have to go outside of you have to be a little bit of like an extrovert to get out there and really meet people. It's a little bit onerous on you, but it's sort of the only way to build up that network. And then when people see you're legit, you're really trying to build something here, and they want you to succeed. Most people want people to succeed. So you'll build up that network, and then down the road, they'll send you business. You'll send them business, and it'll just sort of help you grow your business. And maybe even you'll get a mentor type person or some other person that could help you with some of the larger decisions in the business as you start to grow. So that's what I recommend. And guys, I think I'm getting this down on the phone, the Facebook phone here. So awesome to see everybody, even though I don't see anybody. So have a good weekend. Enjoy, stay safe. Talk soon. Jeff Bruno, Be Modeler.